about to discover 10 phrasal verbs that will make your English sound more natural and that will help you to get a higher score on IELTS speaking. So, are you ready? Let's do it. Hello again, this is Chanchal from EMS, the YouTube channel where you can find a lot of tips and tricks on how to improve your everyday English. And just before I get into today's content of the video, make sure you subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button and also the bell notification so that you become the first person to get notified whenever I upload a new video, because I am here to help you speak better English, give better answers and get a higher score in your IELTS speaking test. But even if you are not one of those IELTS candidates, still you can be benefited by my videos and tutorials, because I can help you improve your English speaking skills, which is very much necessary in today's global economy. So stay with me. Sometimes many students learn English from very outdated course books, maybe a bit like this one. Let me show you. Sorry. So sometimes their spoken English may not sound so natural, and of course the key to success in IELTS speaking is to use natural spoken English. You don't always need those long complicated words like this. Yeah, I am full of adoring admiration for my teacher. I mean, that's just not natural. And by the way, come closer, I'm going to tell you a secret that not everybody knows. The most natural spoken English often uses simple words like this. I look up to my teacher. I look up to my teacher. You see, in spoken English, we use lots of phrasal verbs like look up to. Well, what is phrasal verb? A phrasal verb is basically a verb plus an adverb particle. Sometimes you get a verb plus an adverb particle plus a preposition like look up to, right? But generally speaking, there is just two parts. There is the verb and the adverb particle. So things like nail down, pass away, drag on, run over, slip up, and so on. They are extremely common, and what is more, a lot of them are idiomatic. Now, if you are a good student of IELTS, you will know from the band descriptors that using less common idiomatic vocabulary is a key criteria of a band 7, 8, and 9. So this is very important that today's lesson you follow very closely. Okay? So that is really important, right? So today I'm gonna teach you 10 less common phrasal verbs so you can sound more natural and be using less common idiomatic vocabulary. Great. 2 for the price of 1, right? Sounds like a good deal to me. But before I go into it, I just want to add that learning phrasal verbs is so much fun, right? And when your learning is fun, your learning will be deeper. When you try this out with native speakers, I can guarantee you, they will probably either smile and think, oh, that's cool. Or they will smile and think, it's not quite right, but still it sounds very cool. The key thing when you are learning phrasal verbs is you must practice. You must try them out and expect to make mistakes. Mistakes are great because when you get the feedback, that helps you to get better and to start using them more correctly. Okay then, right now let's get stuck into some phrasal verbs. Alrighty then, the first phrasal verb is to crop up, and I wonder if you can guess the meaning. Here is an example for you. Oh, I have to work late today. Something cropped up at work. Can you guess? It actually means to appear, or to appear unexpectedly or suddenly. A bit like to pop up, right? To appear unexpectedly. Something cropped up at work. Crop up, cropped up. Notice the pronunciation. It is like cropped up, cropped up. Can you repeat with me? Cropped up. Something cropped up at work. Anything can crop up. Maybe a problem, a new project, or a new task. Probably it was my boss that gave it to me, the new task, but diplomatically I could say something cropped up at work. Thank you, boss. Go to hell, you bugger. Now, what things can crop up? Problems crop up. Shops crop up. Restaurants crop up in a new city. Opportunities can crop up. So, for example, we might say, in my hometown, Chinese restaurants are cropping up everywhere. Every week there's a new restaurant. Notice here, I use the present continuous. But if I'm talking about now or the recent past, then I can also use, in my hometown, Chinese restaurants have been cropping up everywhere. Both have a very similar meaning and both are fine. Crop up. Great. Now let's move on to number 2. Alrighty, so phrasal verb number 2 is to nail down. To nail down literally means to stick something in place, just like the way you do with a hammer and a nail, right? But idiomatically it means to identify clearly. So to nail down is to identify something clearly. If you nail down a reason, you identify the reason clearly. You can nail down answers, you can nail down the times, the dates, or nail down a reason. So I am thinking, for example, in the IELTS speaking test, when the examiner asks you, why do you think da, 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 da? You could say, well, it's hard to nail down the reason, but maybe it's because da, 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 da. Right, it's hard to nail down the reason. Fantastic, right? Actually, that reminds me of another phrasal verb. It's not in my list of 10, but anyway, learning opportunity for you. So let me tell you. It is to single out, which means to choose one from a group. To single out something is to choose one from a group of many for special treatment. So again, if the examiner says, well, why do you think this? You could say, I would single out one main reason, and that is Brilliant. Let's move on to phrasal verb number 3. Phrasal verb number 3, to iron out. You all know, once you put your shirt in the washing machine and then dry it, the shirt is not instantly wearable, right? Because the shirt is full of creases. Then what do? You take the iron machine and then you iron out the shirt and remove those creases, right? Very simple. But iron out is also idiomatic. So iron out something or to iron out a problem is to get rid of or to remove or to be free of. That is, it no longer exists. Notice the pronunciation. We don't pronounce the R. So it sounds like iron out. Iron out. You practice it a couple of times, right? Iron out. Iron out. You can iron out problems. You can iron out difficulties. Also, you can iron out misunderstandings. Now then, in IELTS Speaking Part 3, very often you are talking about problems and solutions, and the examiner may ask you, for example, let's talk about the problem of internet safety. How do you solve this problem? And what you could say is something like, the best way to iron out this problem is to Great, very nice. Let's move on to number 4. Now, phrasal verb number 4 is to pack in. So, to pack in, can you guess what it means if I give you an example? Here you go. I went to the gym for 3 months, but then I packed it in. I just didn't have enough time to go. Now, you can probably guess it means to stop doing something, right? You can pack in a hobby. You can pack in a job. Stop doing it. You can pack in a course if you stop following it. So, lots of different ways of using this phrasal verb, to pack in. Let's look at another example. I want to pack in my job. It's not very rewarding and badly paid. You can talk about maybe a hobby. I took up painting, but then I packed it in because I didn't enjoy it very much. So, to pack something in or to pack in something, if you use the pronoun it, that goes in the middle. Pack it in. I decided to pack it in. Fantastic, right? A nice phrasal verb you can use for lots of different topics. Let's move on to number 5. Okie dokie. Number 5 is to ache for. Now, to ache, you may be familiar with this word from other words like headache, toothache, stomachache, and it really means a pain, something that hurts you. Now, at the same time, to ache for means to desire or to want strongly. So, to ache for is to desire strongly or to long for something. Similarly, to long for is to want something very, very strongly. So, for example, we could say, I'm aching for a holiday, which means I really want a holiday. Notice we used present continuous, but you can also say, I've been aching for a holiday, which is present perfect continuous. It's really the same meaning, but emphasizing also the recent past, not only now. You can use both of those. Interestingly, when you are on a holiday, sometimes you ache for home because you want to go home. In the time of pandemic and confinement and lockdown, maybe you can say, well, I'm aching for an outing, or I'm aching for companionship, or I'm aching for a night out with friends. There's lots of things you can be aching for, especially during the pandemic period, right? Okay, keep practicing. Let's move on. Right, number 6 is to drag on. Remember, it is not a dragon. It's drag on. The noun, a drag, is informal. It means something is very boring. Oh, this class is a drag. I'm not talking about my class, right? This book is a drag. It's so boring. So to drag on means something like to last longer than necessary. So you might say, for example, if you are talking about pandemic once more, oh, the pandemic has dragged on for such a long time. So can you say it smoothly? Dragged on, dragged on. Say it a couple of times. Please also notice, here we are talking about now and also looking back. So we use present perfect. You can also use the present perfect continuous. The pandemic has been dragging on for such a long time. So right, both tenses are possible. Often people tend to ask, which one is more appropriate? Present perfect or present perfect continuous? And my answer is like, very often grammar is not about right or wrong. It's about what is the meaning you want to give. And with the present perfect and present perfect continuous, at least 9 times out of 10 you can use both. But the feeling is a bit different. The pandemic has been dragging on. It's continuous. There is a feeling of it's going continually on and on. There is a stronger feeling, but both are correct. So to drag on, we can talk about IELTS Speaking Part 2. Maybe you want to talk about a boring party. The party dragged on for such a long time. Or maybe a boring conversation. The conversation dragged on for a long time. Maybe it's a lesson or a meeting which you felt boring. The lesson dragged on for ages, or the meeting dragged on forever. So lots of things you can talk about in IELTS Speaking Part 2. But let's not drag on this phrasal verb anymore and move on to the next one. So the next one is to do away with something. Now, you know all these words separately, like do, away, with, but all together, do you know the meaning? To do away with something means to remove, stop, or abolish. So usually it's talking about a law or some kind of obligation. To do away with a law is to stop it. To do away with a rule or do away with a tax is to abolish it. You can do away with any restriction, right? To do away with something is to stop or abolish. But be careful, it's totally different from do away with somebody. You never want to do that, because to do away with someone means to kill someone. And I'm sure you are not ready to do that, and neither we are talking about that. We are talking about do away with something. Now this is really good, because I think in IELTS Speaking Part 3, the examiner often asks you, well, what do you think about this? And often we talk about some kind of restriction, maybe a law or a tax or something we have to do. So you may say something like the following: I wish we could do away with face masks. Or talking about a law, I think the government should do away with this law. Or talking about exams in education, we should do away with exams forever. Right, so an interesting thing to notice here is, you may be thinking, so should I say do away with or abolish? Which one is better? Well, why not use a trick of natural spoken English? And the trick is, we often repeat the same phrase but in a slightly different way, right? It is different from writing, where we don't do that. But in speaking, we do it because the words just disappear, so we often repeat them. So it would be perfectly natural to say something like I think we should do away with exams. The government should abolish them. Great. So you kill two birds with one stone, right? You are using the phrasal verb and the nice word, but you are actually just repeating it. Be careful not to do this too much, right? Don't say, for example, I think we should stop exams, should remove them. Yes, let's do away with them. The government should abolish them. That would be just over the top, like it's too much. But just two phrases, it's absolutely fine. I think we should do away with the exams. The government should abolish them. Perfect. Let's move on. So the next phrasal verb is all about, things that are expensive or cost a lot of money. Now, in English, there are a lot of phrases we can use around things that are expensive, like it costs an arm and a leg, or it costs a fortune, and so on, right? But a nice phrasal verb is it set me back $20 or blah blah blah. So it set me back, which means it costs a lot of money. So it set me back. Can you say that? It set me back. It set me back. Great. Now notice it is not I set back. It is the thing that I bought set me back, right? Like this car set me back a few millions. So it set me back means it costs me so much. Normally the nuance is that it costs a lot of money. Suppose if we use it set me back $5, the feelings is that $5 is expensive, it's too much, but that does not make any sense, right? Commonly we would say, well, it set me back a lot of money, right? I don't know, but I've heard that English people are often reluctant to say how much things cost. But here in Bangladesh, it's completely opposite. People love to show off when they buy something expensive, and often when you ask them how much did it cost them, they would definitely add some extra with the actual price. You know what I mean. Maybe someone purchased a nice diamond ring and you asked, wow, look at this beautiful ring. How much did that set you back? You might get an answer, well, it set me back quite a bit, near about 50k, whereas maybe the real price was 30k. But for your information, this is not a very common practice with the English people. They will rarely say the actual price they paid to buy an expensive product. Rather, they'll always use phrases like quite a bit, quite a lot, etc. So anyway, let's move on to number 9. Okay, the next phrasal verb is to slip up. Now, to slip means to fall because maybe the ground is smooth with water or icy. Or more common scenario in Bangladesh, someone threw a banana peel on the street and you slip on it, right? Remember the pronunciation, it's slip, not sleep, because the longer sleep refers to, and the phrasal verb is to slip up. Again, it's idiomatic. It doesn't mean you fall up, which is quite difficult. It means to make a mistake, to slip up. For example, in the past I slipped up. Now repeat with me. In the past I slipped up. Nice. This is great because in IELTS Speaking general conversations, we talk about slipping up in work, in relationships, talking about the government, right? For example, you might say, the government has slipped up, which means they made a mistake. Or, I slipped up at work yesterday. I made a huge mistake. I lost my manager's presentation. Did you see the trick there I was doing? I was actually repeating it twice, but saying it slightly different. So this is a very clever trick, right? Or talking about relationships. Oh, I slipped up last week. I forgot my wife's birthday. So whilst mistakes are great, don't slip up too many times. Let's move on to the last but not the least phrasal verb. So the last one for today, to flick through. Now, an extremely common topic in life and also in IELTS speaking, which is a reflection of life, is books, magazines, newspapers, photos. These topics come up a lot. So here is a great phrasal verb for you. I'm gonna give you the old-fashioned version because I'm a bit of a fuddy-duddy, but also I will give you the modern version to show you that I'm not completely lost or left behind in the previous century where I grew up, right? So the phrasal verb is to flick through. To flick through means to look through. Now, we use that to talk about, for example, reference books. When you look through a reference book quite quickly, maybe then you say, I'm flicking through my grammar book. Or, yesterday I was flicking through this book. Right? So you can flick through a book, a magazine, or a newspaper, or even you can flick through a photo album, right? So that's nice to flick through. In IELTS Speaking Part 2, you may be asked to describe an article, a piece of news, or a photo. So you could start by saying something like this. I was flicking through the newspaper the other day and I saw an article about healthy eating, for example, right? Then you talk about a piece of news or a photo or whatever. So nice. Now for your digital natives out there, I know that you read books and newspapers and photos on your phone, on your tablet or your computer, right? In that case, it won't be flicking through, right? It will be swiping through, swiping through, swiping through. I was swiping through my Facebook feed the other day and I saw an interesting photo. Let me tell you more. So to flick through is for faddy-duddy like me, or to swipe through is for digital natives like you guys, right? Excellent. So that's all for today, guys. I hope you guys liked the video, and if you did, please leave me a comment below and let me know which part of this video was actually very useful for you. Also, do remember to subscribe and turn on the notifications. This is your friend Chanchal signing out for today. Hopefully I'll be back very soon with some new contents. Till then, take good care of yourself and your family. God bless you. Allah Hafiz.